This guy right here is my notorious and my lovely baby, my Nikon D5200. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why I don't use my Nikon D5200 anymore, what I like, what I hate, and would I still recommend it in 2021, going forward, 22, 25, 2030, and forever. We're talking about the future here, people. Should you cop the Nikon D5000 line, whether that's the 5600, the 3500, the 7000s? I'm gonna get straight to the point and tell you my honest opinions from some person who's used this professionally for video work for the past 5 years now. So let's get it. So if you're new here, what up? My name is Peter, and if you like these videos, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for the algorithm. And according to the YouTube analytics, a lot of y'all are not subscribed to this channel. So what are you doing? Subscribe for more edumacating content so you can learn and be a better content creator, even if you have a Nikon camera. So this video is dedicated to why I put my baby to rest and why I don't use my Nikon D5200. So give y'all a little backstory is that I started using my Nikon D5200 as my very first video camera. It was my first camera that I went from using a fully automatic to fully manual, and I started to learn video on my Nikon camera. And it was a controversy because even when I brought this to client shoots or people are like, wait a minute, you can use Nikon for video? And that's how I started this YouTube channel. I wanted to prove to people that yes, you are the not necessarily your camera, but the person behind the camera. And if you look on every single one of my videos for the past 100 videos, every single video was made on this guy using the best video settings that I could know to possibly know, so I could get the best videos even for YouTube. And even though this camera is going on 10 years old now, it's pretty much a senior in the camera realm, is that a lot of people didn't know that I was using a Nikon camera, let alone I could color grade it, I can make it look like a steady cinematic shots, and it gave me a lot of way into where I am today. But enough backstory. I'm gonna tell you what I like about it is that it is your standard entry DSLR. Crop body, we're looking at 24.2 megapixels. I think it is a XP 3 sensor, and it took great photos. And it had a external mic jack, which the other 3000 lines don't have, and it allowed me to record videos with audio as well. And it shot in 1080p. And going into the future, I'm going to talk about the long list of what I didn't like about it and why I don't use it anymore. So why I decided to finally upgrade, which I'm using right now, is the Z50. Check out all my videos on the Z50, and why I replaced my D5200 with it is that it doesn't shoot in 4K, and if I wanted 60 frames in slow motion, the D5200 does not shoot 60 frames in 1080p. It shoots in 720p. So instead of upscaling in 4K or downscaling, I actually had to even downscale even more to shoot in slow motion if I wanted to. The next feature is what I didn't like about the D5000 line is the autofocus. And if you have a Nikon D5000, D3000 lineup, any one of those guys, you'll see that you can't do this, right? Right now, I'm in focus, and I have the confidence to know that I am in focus because I put the settings there. But if I were to put this and use my kit lens on this guy and put it on fully autofocus, you'll have that really notorious pulse that it'll do because it uses contrast detection in terms of autofocus capabilities. Whereas the Nikon Z50 uses phase detection, so that you don't have that hunting issue with its natural kit lens. And the third reason between 60p in 720 you have the autofocus issues and low light performance, not that great, as well as it's not weather sealed, is very heavy. As you can see, it is almost double the size of my Nikon Z50. It was very bulky, and battery life is not that great. So if I wanted to go on a full day video shoot with the D5200, there's a reason why I picked up so many of these Nikon authentic OEM Nikon EL14A batteries, because if I wanted to shoot video, I could only shoot, let's say, 20 minutes of non-stop video for my Nikon D5200 before I worried about the battery running out. So I picked up a crap load of them for a full day of shoot. And realistically, you probably need 4, but I bought like 8. Yeah. So before I continue, not necessarily bashing my D5200, but who do I recommend this camera for, and do I even recommend it? I highly recommend it, contrary to popular belief, is if you still just want to shoot photos. If you're a photographer, the D5200 is still a solid camera, especially if all you do is, let's say, content creation for Instagram. Most people can't tell the difference between a full frame photo and a crop framed photo. So what I mean by that is you're shooting at full frame 42 megapixels compared to crop, which is like half of that, 24 megapixels. And you want to do little BTS of videos just on the side and even start a YouTube channel. Yes, you can still get this, especially on your budget. You can get secondhand this camera for $200, even $100 if you're lucky on things like eBay. And going forward, who do I not recommend this camera for? I think it's time for me to finally admit that for you to use the D5200 for video work, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be really hard. It's the only way for you to get video work with the D5200 is if you have clients that have no idea about video. And everyone wants 4K packages in terms of selling videos now. So I don't recommend this camera if you are a videographer professionally. Don't get me wrong, I'm still on the same boat of like, if you want to start it, use whatever you have, but eventually upgrade. I'm still in school of that. But if you had the budget to start, highly recommend you do not pick up a D5600. You pick yourself up either a full frame Z6 if you have the budget, or get its little brother, the Z50, because you have things like 4K, you have autofocus, weather sealed, as well as if you pick the full frame, you have audio monitoring, as well as 120 frames in slow motion, and even a flat picture profile. So although I was very fond of my D5200, there's a reason why I haven't touched this since, and it's a good sign that I made the right choice on picking my Z50 to replace my D5200. After having the luxury of autofocus, right, I have not looked back, and I still keep it because it is a solid backup photo camera, and it has a lot of sentimental value for me in terms of the articulating flipping screen, that Nikon decided to get rid of. That is definitely a pro that I miss. The overall functionality of the buttons, everything's very intuitive, and the overall feel, right? It's still a solid camera, and it's gonna become one of those old vintage cameras in another 10 years from now. And it's time to finally jump into fully mirrorless, and that's the way the future is heading. So if you want to stay ahead of the game, or even in the future realm, stick with mirrorless cameras. Well, DSLRs is old technology now, and there's a lot of people where like, I'm never going to jump into mirrorless, and guess what they do? They end up jumping to mirrorless. So that's what I'm about, is that staying with the trend. But I'm still on my Nikon Z50, and if like I said, if you want to check all those videos out that I talked about my Nikon Z50 compared to this guy, check that out. But it's a little sad, man. It's a little sad. I gotta say goodbye, but it'll forever have a place on my shelf. And that, guys, was my overall thoughts on my Nikon D5200 and why I don't use it anymore. And I highly don't recommend people use it, especially if you have the budget for a Z50. And if you want to get serious more about videos, make sure to get my Mastery Camera course. Even if you have a D5200, it will help you make the best quality of video and photos, even if you have a low entry DSLR. Grab that link, grab all my resources, grab my free camera guide. Everything is in the description. So check out comments in the description below. And you already know, my name's Peter. You're watching Broke Visionary Collective, where we all start with nothing but you. can always create something. Cheers, guys.